Hello adventurers, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going along an Oregon Scenic Byway, just floating along the roadway, and then all of a sudden we found something epic. Now on this drive we've been kind of meandering through the forest and seeing lush vegetation everywhere. It's been so beautiful. But as you start to climb more and more, kind of out of your peripherals, you see views of the Columbia River, and you can see all the way into Washington. But then we got to the top, or what I think is the top, and we found something special. Today you're going to be coming with me to see what exactly we found and check out some of these views. This is going to be a different kind of video because it's mostly going to be scenery and beauty and maybe a little bit of history, but let's go and enjoy this Oregon Scenic Byway. Okay, so visiting this location, we are here on a weekend. I probably wouldn't advise a weekend for you guys. I would definitely say come during the week so you don't have as big of a crowd. But we had to park on a pull-off over here, and now we're walking right beside the roadway, as you can see, to get to this location because the parking lot was packed whenever we pulled up. I always tell you guys, my tip is to go to places during the week when you can and avoid weekends because they're always super crowded. I also tell you to not hit up holiday weekends, which is exactly what we're doing. It just kind of fell into our lap that way, and typically I wouldn't come to a more touristy area during this time, but we just couldn't pass up this amazing thing that I'm about to show you because it was just so cool. So yeah, I got some walking to do. I gotta catch up to Riley and Brock. By the way, follow them. The description box below, it has their links. Go check them out. So as you can see, we're at the Vista House, and I think you can see the traffic. That's why I was telling you what I did. But we're about to go actually explore the Vista House, which is impressive. I know I'm building it up a lot, but you'll see why. It's epic. It's everything, and you're gonna love this because I am already loving it and I haven't even gotten there yet. Now, something kind of cool that you'll find also here, especially on the weekends, is that this is a stop for the hop-on hop-off trolley. You can actually stop at each one of the waterfalls and have a narrated tour that is really impressive. We've been hearing bits and pieces of it as we've been going. You'll notice there are 2 QR codes here, and so this is a great place to get on the trolley and then go to like Multnomah Falls or some of the others in the area. Something else to give you some brain wrinkles before we actually enter the site: this is actually recognized as a designated registered natural landmark as of 1972. Now, at the time of our visit, they're doing a little bit of construction here, but you can see that they're carrying on the traditional stone work that you'll find all along the Scenic Byway. In fact, this is what makes the Scenic Byway so beautiful. You see all of these stone pieces, and they are along the roadways, covered in moss. Just really brings it into perspective, this beauty of the Pacific Northwest. Now, if you have ever wondered how they create this, they actually have a little template that goes in and creates these stone archways, and then they fill in with all of the stone and mortar. So that's kind of cool, and just a little bonus. You know, we can always learn even from the progress. But enough about all of that. Let's actually move over a little bit closer to the first viewpoint. Now, the cool thing about this area is there are viewpoints in every direction, and so you can see all of the Oregon coastline as it butts up against Washington, the Columbia River, and then also well over into Washington proper. And so it's super cool to see. And right below us, that's part of the Scenic Byway. In fact, here you can get a very beautiful view in this direction of the waterway, and then in the distance you see it looks like a storm is brewing over the mountains. Of course, along the way we've learned a lot about the Columbia. When we were at Beacon Rock on the Washington side, we learned about how the volcanic pieces pushed up and created many of these structures that are around us. And then whenever we were at the coastline area, we learned more about the Maritime Museum, how the Columbia is something that is very interesting. The water that pushes through the Columbia and out to the ocean actually is one of the largest channels that goes from a fresh water and brings out to our ports. And so it's kind of fascinating, but you can see here some of the sands that we also learned about at the Columbia. Did you know that they actually have to go and dredge out all of this sand that is deposited because it actually slows the ships from being able to come down? That's a kind of fun fact that ties all of our places together. Now, the Columbia River Scenic Highway, which is what we're on currently, is actually also registered on the National Historic Civil Engineering Landmarks. So now we are at the bottom entrance of the Vista House. There's a top entrance and a bottom. You can come to this bottom portion just by accessing the parking lot and taking a staircase down. This was established in 1917, and it's a historic structure that is absolutely immaculate. Now, the bottom part looks nothing more than like a door in the side of a mountain with some stones around it. However, the top, that's where it gets really, really interesting. And I'll show you that in just a minute, but I thought, let's go up this staircase right here and check out what exactly we can find on the inside. Inside, we follow these beautifully well done stairs and enter into this massive hall of beautiful photos. In fact, in this building, there's an entire gallery of beautiful pieces to tell the story of the history of this area. But there's a couple of other things here too. It smells like coffee because there's coffee right over here. There's also these historic signs that we can learn a little bit more about all the various pieces of construction and business and what once was. And then there's a gift shop. In fact, here we learn about the hotels and get a picture of what it might have been like to visit some of these in the early 1900s. As we kind of move forward, they have something about the auto camps. And again, you can see what an auto camp might have looked like in 1922. Roadhouses and restaurants were a part of everyday life back in the early 1900s. And here you can find the Crown Point Chalet dining room, which was demolished in 1948, but lives on forever in our memories thanks to this photo. The owner of the Crown Point Chalet was Margaret Henderson, and this is a picture of her in 1923. This is something we're pretty familiar with even today, auto touring. Scenic byways like the one we are on were popular even back in the 1920s and 30s. In fact, here you can find a little bit more about this as you explore through the signs. And you can also get an accurate map of the area and the waterway as of 1924. Here we learn a bit more about the tunnels and also viaduct systems that they used in the early 1900s. This is a pretty interesting point right here. This is called the Mitchell Point Tunnel, and it was designed by Arthur Elliott, and it was later demolished in 1966 when the freeway was established. Can you imagine driving through this and having those views? Of course, any trip through this area, you'll notice very quickly that bridges are a major part of life. And so here you can find out a little bit more about some of the pedestrian footbridges as well as the driving bridges that were established to make it more easily navigated. Now, we spoke earlier on the stonework, but believe it or not, long before the stonework we saw outside, they were laying stone by hand, just like this. And you can see some of the magnificent pieces around this area that you can still see today. Now, of course, this is but one hall inside of this building, and you haven't even seen the outside yet. That's gonna just blow your mind. But I wanted to give you the backstory about this area first and kind of show you where you can find these reference points. Now, something we did learn while we were visiting this area is that Multnomah Falls right now requires a permit to physically park right next to it. So it does make it a little bit harder to get to, just drive up and go. However, they do have the trolley system, and that has been made possible through the accounts of all of this history right here and determining that people were actually interested in visiting. And so I appreciate the history, we get the extra brain wrinkles, and it just makes everything kind of make more sense. Now, following that, we're going to move into the Columbia River Gallery. It's a small gallery right next to the Visitor Center on a different side. And here you can see some of the period attire. You can see some of the different rocks that they have pulled out of this area, and there's more. Let me show you. We will start off, however, right here with some period attire. You can see this fluffy feathered hat adorned with some beautiful, dazzling sparkles with those little pins. And then also this would be a regular coat that would have been worn. Down here we see another style of hat, some of the gloves, and of course there's some photos to accompany this so you could see how people would have looked in these particular looks. Oregon is the home of many rocks, and there's actually a very fascinating little book right here that shares 60 amazing geological sites here in Oregon, along with some of the rocks that you can find in this area. It's beautiful to see some of these. One of my personal favorites are postcards, and here along this way you can see not only the fronts of some of these postcards, but also some of the written notes from some of those as early as the 1918 times. Now, I think you can tell already, this is a pretty predominant stop along the Scenic Byway, but all of these items have at one point in time found their way into the hearts of others as they commemorated their time spent here at the Vista House, Crown Point. Also, there is a picture down here that's going to give it away just a little bit, but this is what the building looks like on the outside, and you can see that they were having a ceremony here. Tons of people had come out. It's pretty awesome. Now, they call this the Crown Point Vista House, and they said that it's the crown to the journeys ahead, and they wear their crown proudly. Here you can learn a little bit more about the construction of the building, what makes it so special, and you should definitely check this out. Let's go see if we can't find ourselves a patch on the interior of the store. Okay, up the stairs we go to the next portion. Okay, we have made it to the grand portion of the building. This is the Vista House. As you can see, it is large, it is beautiful, it has stained glass. There's so many gorgeous parts of this. I don't even know where to start, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try. The Oregon Journal was recorded in saying Vista House will stand like a castle of old on the point once called Thor's Crown. It was in 1916, and you can see the history unfolding through the signs inside of Vista House as well. Here you find out a little bit more about the style of Vista House and what it looked like in the construction phases. In fact, here you can see the construction on north elevation in addition to the south elevation. This was said to have been adopted in the Tudor and Gothic styles, which was better than any other type to lend itself to the calming effect of the broad surfaces. This is actually a reference map to tell you a little bit more about each one of the things that you can see in this area. You will see here Crown Point and Vista House, and then along the way some of the different falls and different creek structures, in addition to the bridges that were created along the way. They all have dates. The coming of the motor age really changed this part of Oregon and made it really open up to new possibilities. And here at the Vista House you can learn all about why this particular point became so important and pivotal when it came to the motor tour age. Okay guys, up the stairs we go. Oh my goodness. Now we are outside and we can see even more of those spectacular views. Below in this direction we have all of the parking and a few views, but nothing too exciting. And as we walk through, you'll notice this is a nice wide area to really enjoy some of this gorgeous architecture. You can see the building construction up close. You can see what it was created from and also all the materials used. They have covered the stained glass to keep it preserved, but you can still see the structure of it and the coloration. Now, when I was in the gift shop earlier, I spoke to one of the workers here and she said it's always super busy, even not on weekends. However, on weekends it is a lot more busy. And so yeah, what I said earlier about coming not during the weekend, it still would apply. Just kind of time yourself accordingly. But it's definitely worth it to stop here because you can find out all of the other cool places along the Scenic Byway that you're not going to want to miss. With that said, let's go back downstairs. I'm going to show you the stained glass a little bit closer and then we'll head outside to get some last views of this magnificent building. Okay, here we are. And well, the further we get away from this building, the more spectacular it becomes. I think you'll notice that as we are kind of moving, you can see the shape of the building. You can also see the dome on the top a bit better. You can see where that stained glass is peeking out and saying hi. And I think you can understand why this has always been such a pivotal stop for people who are traveling along the Scenic Byway. It's an absolutely amazing, beautiful building with a great story, a lot of history, and thus you can get all the brain wrinkles you could ever desire. Remember guys, we're not here for a long time, but we are here for a good time, and just taking the time to pull off on a scenic stop is definitely that. Till next time guys, bye!